A senior UN official has confirmed the presence of terrorist groups in violence-hit Syria. The visiting UN peacekeeping chief renounced any further militarization of the crisis as unacceptable. The UN acknowledgement of the presence of terrorists in Syria comes as no surprise to Syrians. Damascus has blamed foreign-backed terrorist groups from the very beginning.
The UN Under-Secretary-General for Peacekeeping, Erv Latzes, has visited Syria to assess the deployment of the observers monitoring a UN-backed truce in the violence-hit country. In a news conference, Latzes confirmed that terrorist groups are operating in the Arab nation.
Yes, there is a third element, or there are third elements. And these people are not committed to the cause of the Syrian people. They are committed to their own agenda. So we have to keep a watchful eye, but what we are dealing with and what we must deal with is the issue between the Syrians themselves.
Violence continues in Syria despite the presence of UN peacekeeping observers. They are part of a 6-point plan proposed by joint UN and Arab League envoy Kofi Annan to quell the violence that's gripped the nation for more than a year. Despite their presence, a series of bomb blasts has rocked Syrian cities over the past weeks. Latzes' acknowledgement of the presence of terrorists in Syria comes as no surprise to the government, who has blamed foreign-backed terrorist groups from the very beginning. Latzes also renounced any further militarization of the crisis as unacceptable. A clear rebuke of some Arab and Western countries who openly support an armed rebellion in order to topple the Syrian government. Saudi Arabia and Qatar have indicated that they are prepared to help the Syrian opposition militarily. There have also been reports of US troops training militants in Turkey and sending them into Syria. Many experts believe fueling violence in Syria could drag the country into a civil war, a war that will have an impact on the entire region.
To discuss that a bit further, we're joined by Mr. George Jabour, who is the president of the Syrian UN Association, who's joining us now via satellite from Damascus. Now, Mr. Jabour, how significant is it that the UN peacekeeping chief has admitted to the presence of terrorists in Syria? I mean, will that impact the way the Western and many Arab states approach the Syrian issue?
Well, this is a very important testimony by a high United Nations official that there are certain terrorist groups working in Syria, and of course we know who finances those groups. This is very important indication that the Syrian crisis is perhaps about to be solved, in the sense that when we know that there are such armed groups and we know who is arming them, then the issue would be clear. Would the states, the regional states and the international powers that have a relationship with those groups continue to support them after this testimony from a high United Nations official, or they will not? And if they continue, what the net result will be? Would the United Nations, for instance, take action against them? This is an important question. It is not posed that clearly till now, but we'll see what effect this testimony by the international statesman who is visiting Syria will have. I hope that it will be positive regarding the ending of the unrest in Syria.
Right, Mr. George Jabour, you know, even U.S. officials have admitted that terrorists are on the ground in Syria, yet that hasn't yet changed the U.S. stance on Syria, though the country is implementing reforms, has held elections, and has been the target of various terrorist attacks. Now, what does that say about U.S. intentions then?
Well, the U.S. intentions were not positive towards Syria from the very beginning. But now we have an international statement on the place of the armed groups in Syria, that they are active. We have to recall that there is a theory in the United States that war could be privatized. The privatization of war means the harboring of mercenaries. The Security Council is not expected to take action, But the matter might as well go to the United Nations General Assembly. There might be a resolution in this regard. I am not in contact with the Syrian government in this regard, but then I suppose that it is the duty to take the matter to the United Nations. The Security Council, as we know, will not act, but then the United Nations General Assembly might as well act on this statement by the Under-Secretary General of the United Nations.
All right, we'll have to leave it there for now. That was Mr. George Jabour, President of the Syrian UN Association, speaking to us live from Damascus. Mr. Jabour, we appreciate your insight here on Press TV.